Commanders have made yet another signing in NFL free agency. Dan Quinn addresses the possibility of potentially trading down in the NFL draft this year. And then Pro Football Focus has come out with their latest 3-round mock draft. The Commanders have 3 picks in the first 3 rounds, so quite a few guys to go over in that one today. But before we get into today's news and rumors coverage, make sure that you guys click to the thumbs up icon for today's video because the Cowboys report.
Here we go, Cowboys. Here we go.
Jeffrey Cooperstein, our producer here, big Cowboys fan, and we have a little bit of a wager going on right now. He says there's no way the Washington Commanders report can beat the Cowboys report latest video in likes. So today we are going to show Jeffrey Cooperstein up right now. Click that thumbs up icon if you want to help us win. Coop, you got anything else to say here?
It'll just be like on the field. We're going to beat you in the like battle, too.
I don't think
That's
so.
all I got to say.
I don't think so, man. I believe in the Commanders Report faithful, so make sure you click that thumbs up icon right now. And with that, let's get into today's news, starting with an offensive lineman that the Commanders are bringing in here. Michael Dieter, formerly with the Houston Texans, started 10 games for them at both guard and center last year. Actually played pretty darn well for DeMeco Ryans there in Houston, and he is definitely going to be a solid depth piece for the Washington Commanders coming in here. I'm sure that he will compete with Nick Allegretti for the starting left guard spot if, of course, they don't draft an offensive guard in the NFL draft this year. But Dieter is somebody that brings versatility, can play either guard or center, and has some experience in the National Football League and playing pretty darn well within that experience. So I'm excited to see what his role is going to look like. He's probably going to be somebody that competes for a starting job here in camp, and he's definitely somebody at this point in the game I think is a good get for GM Adam Peters. So now let's shift to Dan Quinn on the possibility of potentially trading down from number 2 for the right price. This is what the new head coach had to say about that possibility. Yes, I would say it's ringing, and because, like you said, of the talent of the group this year. And so I would anticipate Adam Peters fielding these calls as it goes through, and usually it's not necessarily later than number 6 or 7, but those people who are usually in the top 4 or 5, there's somebody that somebody has targeted, and I think it's mostly like, well, I've got to take a shot. A lot of times it's no, like, thanks for calling, but it is part of the process, and you have to do your due diligence to listen and to find out just to make sure, like, is there something you just couldn't refuse? I certainly walked past it in the hallway when I was with the Cowboys years ago for a trade that involved Hershel Walker and many draft picks and changed a lot of their organization. So I think anybody in personnel with the skills of Adam, they're going to listen, but there's only so many things that you'd consider, and it better be pretty good. So this sure sounds like to me that Dan Quinn and Adam Peters are going to be staying put unless there's simply an offer they can't refuse. Like if New England offers like 3 first-round draft picks to move up 1 spot. Like, yeah, you're probably taking that deal, especially if your grades on either Drake May or Jaden Daniels are relatively similar and you feel good about either one of them. So there are instances where I could see the Washington Commanders trading down, but like Dan Quinn says, because you need a quarterback, it's going to take quite a bit to trade down at all, especially outside of the top 3 in this year's NFL draft. And some people are taking this quote and they're running with it and they're saying, oh, Dan Quinn says they're listening to offers to trade down. And it's like, not exactly. He says, yeah, we're listening, but you're going to have to really give us a king's ransom in order for us to move off our spot at number 2. And I do think that if you're sitting at number 2 and you're going to be taking a quarterback, and Quinn does say that you can expect the Commanders to take a quarterback at some point in round 1, wherever they end up picking, why not just stay put and take your pick of the litter here outside of likely Caleb Williams, so you have your choice between Drake May, Jaden Daniels, even J.J. McCarthy, or any of the other guys that are available. You have your pick to get, quote-unquote, your guy at number 2, so why would you take the risk of losing out on your guy and your favorite prospect by moving down? That doesn't make sense to me. So I do think the Commanders will stay put, and I think they will take a quarterback, either Drake May or Jaden Daniels, at number 2 overall. Now let me know down there in the comments section, what is the percent chance that Washington trades down from number 2. Put it on a scale of 0, meaning no chance whatsoever, all the way to number 100, meaning 100% sure they are going to be trading their pick. Let me know down there in the comments section for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. So my answer is 2%. All right, so that's a 1 in 50 chance that the Commanders trade down, which isn't nothing. All right, there's still an opportunity there, but I think based on what they're going to need out of a trade down scenario, I just don't know if any team is going to be willing to pony up that kind of draft capital for any team to move up and trade that much to move up just a couple of spots in the first round. They're really going to have to really be adamant about the guy they're taking, and I'm not sure if the gap between Drake May or Jaden Daniels is truly that high, and I don't think the Commanders want to move outside the top 3. So the big question is not, in my opinion, whether the Commanders trade down or stay put. I think they're probably going to stay put, but the big question is it going to be Drake May or is it going to be Jaden Daniels? Now, coming up next, Pro Football Focus answers that question, and they let you know who they think the Commanders should take at number 2 overall. We'll also go over all 6 of their picks in this 3-round mock draft. But before we get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks. You can download the Prize Picks app today or go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. Today's Commanders Report is made possible by Prize Picks, and they've got specials for new and returning users alike for March Madness when you head on over to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Football season is over, folks, but the action on the hardwood is just heating up. Whether it's March Madness or the fight for NBA playoff seeding, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of the year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. March Madness is now in full swing, and you can pick more or less right now. It's super simple, guys. All you do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get started now. If you haven't already, it's at prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. Again, that's prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. You can pick more or you can pick less. It's that easy with our friends at Prize Picks. So now let's get into this 3-round mock draft reaction. We actually haven't done a whole lot of mock draft roundups here on the channel because every single mock draft is usually a 1-round mock, and they either take Jake May or Jaden Daniels, and that's not super interesting. But a 3-round mock here where the Commanders take 6 players is pretty interesting to me. So without further ado, let's get into it here, where Trevor Sikkema, one of their leading draft analysts there at Pro Football Focus, thinks the Commanders should take Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina, over Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels. This is what Sikkema has to say about the pick. The great QB2 debate rages on, and reports indicate plenty of teams are split between May, J.J. McCarthy, and Jaden Daniels. Ultimately, May is the better quarterback prospect, so until I'm confidently convinced otherwise, he is the number 2 pick. And I actually agree with Sikkema here. I have gone over the film on both guys, and in my subjective opinion, all right, because quarterback evaluation is very subjective, I do think that Drake May is the slightly better quarterback prospect over Jaden Daniels. I think there's less red flags involved with Drake May than there are with Jaden, and I go over those red flags and the pros and cons of both guys in our scouting report video on both of them, one of the biggest videos we've ever done on the channel. So if you want to check out my scouting reports and why I think Drake May should be the pick at number 2, you can click the link in the comments and description. But guys, I really wouldn't mind it whatsoever if they ended up taking Jaden Daniels. He's a very good player, and I'm somebody that just wants it to be either May or Daniels because I think they're both blue chip quarterback prospects with high upside, and I'll get behind whoever the Commanders end up landing on. Then in round 2, Sikkema has the Commanders taking Kingsley Suamataia. I hope I'm saying that right. It might be Taya, but I'm going to go with Suamataia here because I think that's a cool sounding name. Offensive tackle from BYU. The Pro Football Focus staff has this as their scouting report on Suamataia. Suamataia is a dream prospect to draft and develop somewhere on day 2. I worry about him being baptized by fire if drafted in the first round and called upon to start right away. And unfortunately here, that's exactly what the Commanders would be asking of Kingsley here. They are in need of a starting left tackle. You have Andrew Wiley currently in the right tackle spot, and you have Cornelius Lucas, who was brought back this year. And he's a good spot starter, whatever. Maybe he would be the starter if they ended up taking Kingsley, but there's plenty of really good offensive tackle prospects in this year's NFL draft class. I have Kingsley all the way down in my number 13th spot. And if you're taking him here at number 36 over guys like Jordan Morgan, who I have a much higher grade on at this point, I would rather go with a guy like Morgan, who's more ready to play in the National Football League right away. I think Sua Mataya needs at least 1 year sitting the bench and learning before he ends up being ushered in as a left tackle for a team, let alone week one with a team like the Washington Commanders with a rookie QB under center. Then we'll go for the second round pick here, the Pro Football Focus team here, and Trevor Sikkema go with Chris Braswell, the edge rusher out of Alabama. Now, Braswell is somebody that I like as a day one rotational edge rusher. He's got some polish. He's very athletic. He's got long arms. He's got a lot of things that you look for in your, especially rotational edge rushers on third downs, with somebody that can just pin their ears back and attack the quarterback. But the big issue with Braswell is his run defense. And the thing that really concerns me about Braswell in this area of his game is that Alabama usually teaches these edge rushers to defend the run extremely well, and that's just not the case on Braswell's film. So that tells me maybe even the elite coaching at Alabama couldn't get it out of him. So could NFL coaching get it out of him? Maybe he's got the physical profile to do it, but I'm not sure if he's ever going to get there. I think Braswell for sure will be a good rotational edge rusher in this league, but I think the Commanders need more of an every down starter with the way they addressed edge rusher in free agency, and I'm not sure if Braswell fits the bill. There in round 3, they're going to go with Johnny Wilson, the 6'7" receiver out of Florida State. I mean, this guy, he's big, he is fast, he does not move like a normal human being, and when he's out there, it's like, who put the Gigantor out there? I mean, this guy is massive compared to some of these tiny corners that he goes up against on his college film. But this is what the Pro Football Focus staff has on Johnny Wilson's profile here. It's hard to watch Wilson's tape and not be intrigued enough to take him at the back end of day 2. He has some frustrating drops, but there is so much more to like, which is rooted in how well he moves as a player for his size. Now, I could absolutely see this happening, specifically with the Washington Commanders, because you look at the room right now, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, De'Ami Brown, even guys like Mitchell Tinsley, all of them are 6 foot or under, all right? So you don't have this really big X-wide receiver to just put on the outside and win and be a contested ball winner on the outside. They don't have that. Johnny Wilson is 6'7". He more than crosses the size threshold. He ran a really good 40 time. He moves really well for his size. Now, he does have some drop issues, getting out in and out of his breaks, not necessarily the best on Johnny Wilson's film. He's got a ways to go. But if the Commanders are looking for a big, hulking X-wide receiver to kind of develop alongside a rookie quarterback, Johnny Wilson is definitely a name to be watching out for. Then also in round 3, pick number 78, Austin Booker, edge rusher out of Kansas. Now, Booker's intriguing to me because he has a lot of different moves on his film. He has a good spin move. He has a rip. He has a dip. He has a swim move. He's got a bunch of different stuff at his disposal. It's just the thing with Booker is that he doesn't necessarily know the right time to implement those moves, all right? So, depending on the positioning of the offensive tackle is really when you want to deploy some of these moves. Sometimes he goes to the wrong move, and it just completely gets shut down. So that's something that really does concern me because he does have the physical upside to be a good run defender. And, if he can learn to be a more intelligent pass rusher and deploy these moves at the right time, he can really be dangerous. But, he's had some time to kind of develop that, and it hasn't happened yet. So it worries me a little bit that Booker isn't there in his development heading into the National Football League. Then in round 3, pick number 100, the last pick of round 3, of course, is the Chase Young pick here from San Francisco. And PFF has the Commanders taking Kalen Bullock, free safety out of USC. This is what the PFF staff has for Bullock's scouting report. Bullock's lack of strength will limit how much an NFL team can trust him to play early in his career. But if he can get stronger, he possesses elite range as an impactful single high safety for any defense, especially in cover 3 and cover 1. And guess what coverages Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. love to run cover 3 and cover 1 man. So Bullock is a really good fit for this system. I can see why Pro Football Focus is kind of connecting the dots here between Bullock and the Washington Commanders. But the problem here is that Bullock is like a free safety only. And right now, the Commanders have a free safety that I really like in Derek Forrest. All right, and also you got Quan Martin to potentially play that role if Forrest gets hurt. So you got 2 guys that can play that position. Also, Percy Butler is a free safety. So you got some depth at this position. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me to bring in another free safety only type guy. I think it makes more sense to maybe get a bigger safety, bring that guy in to kind of back up Jeremy Chin, maybe take his spot as the future starter, as opposed to getting a guy like Bullock, who's a good player. Don't get me wrong. He deserves to be taken in the first 3 rounds, and he's a good fit for this defense technically. I'm just not sure if a true free safety only is what the Commanders are looking for at this point in time. So here is the Pro Football Focus mock draft haul. Make sure you grade this mock for me down there in the comments section, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know down there in the comments section how you feel about this 3-round mock. For me, guys, I'm going to go with a C-. Not a big fan of this. The Kingsley Suamataia pick, I think, is way too premature. I think that's more of a round 3 pick as opposed to a top of round 2 pick. You could probably have Jordan Morgan instead. I'd much rather go that route. And then there's just, you've taken 2 edge rushers when you already just signed a bunch of them in free agency. I think they're going to go 1 edge rusher early in the second and kind of stick with that. The Kalen Bullock pick, it just doesn't really seem like the thing the Commanders are going to do. So for me personally, guys, I'll give it a C-, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comments, and make sure you click that subscribe button for nonstop Commanders coverage all throughout the 2024 offseason.